Hey guys, I just wanted to do another video. I am recording this on May 11th, but I will be releasing it on May 12th. So happy Mother's Day for those of you who pay attention to Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. That's when this will be released. And I wanted to just talk about the culture of my warm growing Phalaenopsis. Now it is very wet in here. You can see how muddy and wet it is because it just rained, and as you guys may have already know by now, the greenhouse roof drains into the floor to keep it from collapsing because this roof is plastic. It works, but this is what happens when it works. But yeah, so these are all my warm growing Phalaenopsis. Well, this one isn't. This is a Vanda cherry blossom, and it's just kind of sitting here for now. But I just have to look at it though, at least. Look how cute it is. Some high desert orchids. Vanda falcata crossed on Vanda ampullacea. And so I've got a handful, again, not a million, like with the catasetums, with the catasetum video I just uploaded. I don't have a ton of them, but I have a handful of them, and I love them. They're my favorite. They're probably one of my favorite groups of orchids at this point. And encyclias, because like this encyclia Serena, or Epicyclia Serena O'Neill is just still going wild and looking beautiful. As is my Gale Nagagaki X Bractescens. Look at that lip. Anyway, so I've got two in bloom, obviously, you can see. Phalaenopsis valentinii and Phalaenopsis Princess Kailuani, or Kailuani. This one is beautiful. It has a weird, like, complex, fruity, spicy floral fragrance, whereas valentinii smells like fruity cinnamon. Although usually only when it's sunny. It's not sunny. It's actually quite gray, quite dim, because it's in the evening. The sun's going down. But I wanted to do a quick talk about them. So first thing you might notice is there's a black mat underneath them, and underneath that little lid there is a cable thing just to keep it a little off the ground and dry, and they're sitting on top of a big rock. But the heat pad warms the bottom of the pots and encourages the roots to grow down, as well as just encourages happy root growth. I've noticed with my warm growing phals and other warm growing orchids like bulbophyllum, or the bulbophyllums that I have that are warm growing. They love this heat mat. So I put the heat mat under the warm growing Phalaenopsis. It's water resistant, so you can see there's water right there, but that's okay, it's not going to harm anything. So let's go through the ones that I have and their stories. So this one is Phalaenopsis Yang. It says Yang Yang Blueberry crossed on Violacea, but the tag is wrong. This is Yang Yang Blueberry. Yang Yang Blueberry is a Tetraspis hybrid. I think it's got Violacea in there too. I don't remember the exact parentage. I know I have it written down somewhere. But this one came from Norman's Orchids, and it is beautiful. It had a little bit of shipping damage, but such happens. Like, this is the newest leaf that it grew, and it didn't get huge because I just repotted it, like when I got it, so it didn't get huge. But it's real nice and healthy, and it's got another one. It isn't in spike yet, but it is big enough to spike, so when it's ready, it will. This one's kind of having a little bit of an issue, but it wasn't shipped to me in the healthiest. This came from Norman's Orchids, and it kind of had some shipping issues. But it's rooting in fine now and starting to grow better. This leaf just finished maturing. That's not mold or anything, that's just water deposit. But it's starting to grow in a little bit. This is Phalaenopsis KS Super Zebra crossed on Pantherina. There's that Vanda cherry blossom again. It's absolutely adorable. It's got what looks like to be another fan starting down there. This one in bloom is Phalaenopsis LOC Magic Panther, which is Pantherina and Cornucurvi. It's beautiful. It's winding down for a break because it's been blooming non-stop with like 5 to 6 flowers open on this one spike at a time. And it's bloomed a lot, but it's taken a bit of a break. I don't see any new buds developing, but it's still got 3 flowers. They're very shiny, and the patterning is just stunning. So this is one of my favorites. I love Cornucurvi and Pantherina crosses. There's the Princess Kailuani again. Beautiful. This one is Violacea and Amboyensis. There's another bud right there. This one was an import from Taiwan, and so you can see that it has shipping damage on it. It even had a little bit of mite issue at one point, but the mites have. This is like right when I got it, and that was a while ago. Beautiful, healthy new leaf there. Healthy spike with flower. It had one more bud before it, but it got damaged when it was opening, so I just cut it off because it was missing a dorsal and a sepal, a lateral sepal. This spike was damaged from shipping too, but it might branch. I did this with Valentinii, and the spike branched. I don't see anything yet, but we will soon find out. God, I wish I could just have my phone just autofocus for me. And then down in there, I believe I spotted a third spike starting right there. But it looks like it kind of stalled a little bit. But the thing with spikes is that they can just pick up and grow again whenever they're ready. This one is Rhynchonopsis Dragon Charmy, which is a cross of Phalaenopsis japonica. It's not Sideria japonica, it's Phalaenopsis japonica. Although if whatever they're doing with it goes through, it might become, I think it was Hydrochilus or something like that. But for now, it's Phalaenopsis, making this a Rhynchonopsis. This one back here is Phalaenopsis Samara Cerulean. Samara is a cross of Bellina and Violacea. In the past, this would have been just Violacea because Bellina was considered Violacea varborneo, but now it's a separate species. Also from Norman's orchids. This one came from High Desert Orchids as per the classic blue tag. So did this one. And this one had a spike that started, but it aborted. But it's a first bloom plant, so I'm not really surprised. And then of course Valentinii, which has been non-stop blooming since I got it last August. There's another bud opening. It's going to have 6 flowers open. And it's got a third spike. It just finished this new leaf. And it's got another new leaf starting. And it's also got lots of nice new roots. There's a couple there coming in. They're kind of like that reddish tint, and I love that. You can see how much this Valentinii has bloomed off that spike. And you can see here what I mean. Like, I cut the spike because the tip was damaged when it shipped to me. And then it grew a branch off the side and continued there. But these are just gorgeous flowers. This is, Valentinii is Cornucurvi and Violacea. Mine has obviously a more Cornucurvi shape, and I just love it. The lip is so gorgeous. The fragrance on a warm, sunny day is to die for. And there's one of the frogs up there. Can't tell which one it is, but you can hear it. There's a couple more up there. A couple more up there. So yeah, there's a lot of frogs in here. Look, there's a frog. There's a lot of frogs in here. They love it. They love living in here. Lots of bugs, and see, there's one right there. Right there. Just kind of chilling. They're between the plastic layers, and there's a lizard up there too, actually. They're between the plastic layers, but they get out. They can get out. I've watched them. They can do it. But anyway, the culture on these guys, for me, it's pretty simple. Keep them warm, even at night. Don't let them get below. I don't let them get below 65, because after any lower than that, and they start to really pout, abort spikes and buds, and just stop growing. I keep them actually above 70 overall. No lower than 70. They get bright light because they're right next to like the cattleyas and the encyclias and stuff. So they're a little bit further back, but they're definitely not in the shady corner like over there. So they get lots of light. I'm talking lots of light. They don't get like blasted. They don't get direct sun, but they get some pretty bright light. And that's helped because like Valentinii, like Cornucurvi crosses, pardon me, love a lot of light. Because Cornucurvi, in nature, it grows very high up in the trees. And is exposed to direct sun in some places. So it likes a lot of light. Pantherina does like too, I think. This one, because it had a bad mite infestation shortly after I got it, you can see that. And then this leaf kind of died, so I cut it back. But it's grown this new leaf and looks much better, and it's obviously never stopped blooming. This right here is evidence that it got too cold in the past, but it hasn't done anything. It's actually been fine. So that's why that yellowing happens usually. I fertilize them regularly. I do as I usual with my tank, it's a 1-gallon pump sprayer. So I will fill it up and then empty it out, and that usually takes 2 to 4 days. So each plant in the greenhouse will get 2 to 4 days worth of fertilizer, and then they'll get 2 to 4 days worth of regular water with hose flushings to flush out built up salts in the media. But yeah, I keep them warm, I keep them bright. Even the lower light ones like Violacea and whatnot, and these I keep them a little bit further back on this side of the tray, but they still get pretty bright. And you can tell they like it. Like Valentinii is a nice healthy color. When I took it in for judging, one of the things they wanted to look at for if I brought it back in the future was culture awarding, because the leaves are like in amazing shape, like they're the perfect color, lots of roots, lots of flowers. Because these are sequential bloomers, so they will bloom. Some of them will bloom 1 to 2 flowers at a time, like Princess Kailowani here on each spike. Others will bloom like 2 to 3, or like this one. Like this one has, for a while it did 2 at a time, but now it's like all of a sudden, now that it's getting warmer or something, it's got more vigor and it's blooming 3 at a time. And that's usually sometimes and often from hybrid vigor. From crossing 2 species. Although my cornucurvi, which is upstairs, no, it's in the garage right now because it stays outside now, but it was raining so much. That one would bloom 2 flowers at a time. So that one's not pictured in here, but it's in the garage and it's doing well too. But these are just, oops, I switched the camera mode. I apologize for that. I don't know how long that was on. So if you see this, that's why. But anyway, back to these. Yeah, warm. I'm trying to remember what I covered because I need to really get a schedule for these videos. I've covered it. I keep them warm, bright, watering. That's what's next. I don't let them dry out fully, except for this one. Cornucurvi and its crosses like to dry out a little bit more. This one gets to dry out fully before I soak it really heavily again. But Valentinii, though, is an exception to that. I don't let Valentinii fully dry out. Once I see the roots inside the pot that I can see, like if I grab it, the roots I can see, and you can see like there's a couple of root tips growing in there. If those roots in there start to silver, I've waited too long. So I don't ever let it dry out fully. And they do absolutely wonderfully that way. This one, obviously you can see, it's such a healthy, nice plant. It's one of my favorites. This is actually my favorite orchid right here. Phalaenopsis, they always get looked at in a negative light sometimes because, quote unquote, they're so common. And I get how people can say that, but they're not really. Like, there's a lot of cool rare species of Phalaenopsis and some really nice hybrids. It's the complex hybrids that you see at like the grocery store and stuff that are like the common, really not that special ones, even though they're still beautiful. But these are warm growing hybrids of the section Polychilus. And so they grow differently, they look differently, and they react differently culture-wise. And you can see just how like vibrant that lip is. It's a little bit less vibrant on camera than it is in person, but it's like so eye-catching. It's the first thing you see when you look at these flowers. And if only we had smell-o-vision. But yeah, don't let these dry out. I put most of them in, if I can put them in a clear pot, I usually do. You can see for the most part, they all are, except for Dragon Charmy and LOC Magic Panther. They're all in clear pots, so I can see the roots. There's also slots in the sides of most of them, so they can breathe. And they're in a well-draining mix of chopped sphagnum moss and fine-grade bark. So it retains moisture really well, but it dries out within a few days, and so it holds water for a few days and then dries out, and it drains really well. Water doesn't just sit in it, it doesn't stay sopping. And that's perfect for these guys. They absolutely go wild when you have them warm, wet, and bright, but let them dry out somewhat. You can see. The flower positioning on this one could be a little bit better. Like if this one were turned more like that way, that would be perfect. But it's still wonderful. It's the first time in a while that it's bloomed consistently 3 spikes or 3 buds at a time. It used to bloom 2 buds at a time, and then one time had 3, and then went back to 2. But now with that 3rd spike starting in there, this is gonna be really nice. It's gonna be a specimen plant in no time. There we go. Anyway, I hope that's helpful to some of you guys if you guys grow these warm growing hybrids. They're, again, one of my favorite groups of orchids, and this one in particular, Phalaenopsis valentinii, is my favorite orchid. The fragrance, the color, the longevity. These flowers last almost a month each, sometimes a month or over a month if there's only like 1 or 2 on. But now I've got 6. We're gonna have 6 here as soon as this one opens within a day or 2. It's just a fabulous show. Constant bloom, hasn't been without a bloom since I got it, and even then it wasn't without a bloom because it arrived in bloom. It arrived with a single bud on it, or a single flower open, a bud on the way, and 2 spikes. The other spike hadn't gotten big enough yet because it was, well, damaged, so that's why I cut it back a little bit. But if you cut it back at the right time, they can do that. If you cut it back while they're actively growing and blooming, you can get a branch like that to form, and then it will continue to go as usual. This one's got the flattened spike habit of cornucurvi. You can see like the spikes are wide, but very thin, and that's from the cornucurvi parent. So anyway, I hope this helps some of you guys, and I hope you guys are having a great Saturday, and by the time this goes up, Sunday. And happy Mother's Day to all. Thank you for watching.